All right, so get this. Today we are going deep, deep inside. Oh, well, not literally inside, but we're going deep into the brain to explore the pituitary gland.
Oh, yeah, the pituitary gland.
And, we've gotten some listener questions. People really want to understand this tiny but mighty gland that impacts your whole body.
Yeah.
And we're going to be working with excerpts from an anatomy and physiology textbook to kind of break this down.
Cool.
So, yeah, we're gonna make this fascinating, even though it could sound a little dry at first.
It really is remarkable, though, how such a small structure can have such a big impact, right? I mean, it's nestled deep inside the skull in like this little bony cradle called the sella turcica, and it's just this pea-sized gland.
Wow.
And it's orchestrating everything from like, how tall you are to your stress response.
It's like the conductor of a hormonal orchestra.
Yeah,
right. And speaking of orchestras, our textbook is pointing out that the pituitary gland is not a solo act. It's actually divided into two distinct lobes, each with their own unique set of instruments, or in this case, hormones.
Exactly. We have the posterior pituitary, which is kind of like a direct line to the brain. And then we have the anterior pituitary, which acts more like a hormone factory, a manufacturing plant.
Ooh, okay. So two very different roles there.
Yeah, and understanding this division is really important to understanding how the pituitary works.
So let's zoom in on the posterior pituitary first, and this lobe is directly connected to the hypothalamus, which is this, region in the brain that kind of acts like the pituitary's boss, so to speak.
I think it's more of a collaborative relationship.
Okay.
Imagine the hypothalamus as like the CEO setting the overall, strategy, and then the posterior pituitary is like the manager.
Okay.
Who's diligently carrying out those directives by releasing these hormones. And the communication happens through this special neural pathway or tract called the hypothalamic hypophyseal tract.
Oh, wow. That's a mouthful.
It's
hypothalamic
hypophyseal
tract. Okay, so what kind of messages are being sent down this highway, this tract?
Our textbook mentions two key hormones released by the posterior pituitary: oxytocin and antidiuretic hormone, or ADH.
Right, so let's start with oxytocin, which is, sometimes called the love hormone.
Oh, I've heard of that.
You might already know that it plays a role in childbirth and breastfeeding. But what's really fascinating is its connection to, like, social bonding and trust.
Interesting.
It's even been linked to romantic relationships.
Wow. So oxytocin it's like the glue that holds us together.
Yeah, you could say that.
And then there's this ADH, which has a very different job.
Yeah.
It's all about keeping us hydrated. Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So ADH, or antidiuretic hormone, basically tells your kidneys how much water to conserve.
Okay.
So if you're dehydrated, the ADH levels are going to increase. And this is going to prompt your kidneys to reabsorb more water and produce less urine.
Okay.
And this helps maintain this, delicate balance of fluids in your body.
So it's like our body's internal water regulator.
That's a good way to put it.
But what happens when this regulation goes haywire?
Yeah.
Our source material describes some pretty intense consequences.
Right. So if ADH production is too low, you can develop a condition called diabetes insipidus.
Oh, wow.
Imagine like constantly being thirsty and having to go to the bathroom, all the time.
Oh, that sounds miserable.
Not a pleasant experience.
No.
On the other hand, if ADH levels are too high, then you can get a condition called SIADH, and that's where the body retains too much water. And this can cause headaches, confusion, even seizures in severe cases.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this seemingly, simple hormone really plays a key role in our overall well-being.
Yeah.
But let's not forget about the other lobe, the anterior pituitary.
Yeah.
This is the hormone production powerhouse in its own right.
Indeed.
So while the posterior pituitary is releasing hormones made by the hypothalamus, the anterior pituitary, it actually produces its own set of hormones, and there are 6 major players we need to discuss.
Yes.
But before we jump into all of that, I think it's important to take a step back and think about how this hormone production is regulated.
Yeah, good point.
So we've got the hypothalamus calling the shots, the posterior pituitary acting as a direct messenger.
Right.
And now we have this anterior pituitary, which is more like an independent contractor, producing its own unique set of hormones. So how does the hypothalamus control this production?
Well, so the hypothalamus isn't, a micromanager.
Okay.
It provides guidance through this special communication system called the hypophyseal portal system.
Okay.
Think of it like a dedicated express lane.
Yeah.
Okay. Delivering very specific instructions to the anterior pituitary.
Oh, so instead of shouting across the room, the hypothalamus is sending targeted messages directly to the anterior pituitary, telling it what to produce and how much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And these messages come in the form of releasing and inhibiting hormones.
Okay.
So it's like a very complex conversation where the hypothalamus is like, hey, we need more of this, or okay, slow down production of that.
So this is all starting to make sense. We have this incredible communication network between the hypothalamus and both lobes of the pituitary, ensuring that hormone production is precisely controlled. But we haven't even really gotten into what those anterior pituitary hormones actually do.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there.
So let's dive into that. Okay, so let's finally get to these stars of the show. These 6 hormones produced by the anterior pituitary.
Yeah, let's do it. Where
do we even begin?
Well, a good place to start might be with growth hormone, or GH. It's probably the most well-known.
GH.
Yeah, and its role is really important.
Yeah, when you think about growth, you probably think about childhood. But our textbook points out that GH is actually important throughout life. And what's fascinating to me is that it affects more than just our bones and muscles.
Right.
It impacts how our bodies use energy from carbohydrates, proteins, and fats.
Yeah, and that's why, GH imbalances can have such a wide range of effects, right? So think back to the examples in the textbook about, gigantism and acromegaly, where you have excessive GH.
Right.
Leading to abnormal growth patterns. And then on the flip side, you can have GH deficiency, which results in, short stature or pituitary dwarfism.
Wow. It's amazing how one hormone can have such a huge impact.
It is.
But let's move on to another key player, thyroid stimulating hormone, or TSH.
Yes. TSH, yeah. This one is all about kickstarting your thyroid gland, which is located in your neck. And the thyroid is responsible for producing hormones that regulate your metabolism, your energy levels, even your heart rate.
So if the thyroid is like the engine room, then TSH is like the key that gets it going.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy.
Okay.
And now remember those feedback loops we talked about earlier?
Yes.
They play a crucial role here too. So when thyroid hormone levels in the blood rise, they signal back to the hypothalamus and pituitary to decrease TSH production.
Okay.
So it prevents the thyroid from going into overdrive.
So it's like a finely tuned thermostat, constantly making adjustments to keep everything running smoothly.
Exactly.
Okay, now this next hormone, ACTH, sounds a little more intense.
ACTH, or adrenocorticotropic hormone. This is our stress responder.
Ooh.
It acts on the adrenal glands, which sit on top of your kidneys.
Okay.
And they release a whole bunch of hormones, including cortisol, the famous stress hormone.
Right. So when you're facing a really challenging situation, your hypothalamus sends out an SOS.
Yes.
Prompting the pituitary to release ACTH, which then tells the adrenal glands to pump out cortisol.
Exactly. Okay. And then cortisol helps your body cope with that stressor by increasing blood sugar levels, suppressing inflammation, and just redirecting energy to where it's needed most.
It's like a rapid response team.
Yeah.
Mobilizing resources to help you handle the situation.
I like that, yeah.
Okay, so we've covered growth, metabolism, and stress.
Right.
What's next on the anterior pituitary's to-do list?
Well, let's not forget about reproduction.
Okay.
That's where follicle-stimulating hormone, or FSH, and luteinizing hormone, or LH, come into play.
Yes, the hormones of love and babies.
Yeah.
So what do they do exactly?
So they target the gonads, which are the ovaries in women, and the testes in men.
Okay.
And FSH basically stimulates the development of eggs in women.
Okay.
And sperm production in men. And LH, on the other hand, triggers ovulation in women.
Okay.
And testosterone production in men.
So they're essentially responsible for keeping the whole reproductive system humming along.
Exactly.
And just like with TSH and the thyroid, are feedback loops at work here too?
Yes, absolutely. So the sex hormones produced by the gonads like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. They signal back to the hypothalamus and pituitary, ensuring that those FSH and LH levels are just right.
It's incredible how these systems are constantly communicating and adjusting.
It is.
Okay, now we have one more hormone to cover. Prolactin.
Prolactin, or PRL. Yeah, this one is best known for its role in milk production after childbirth.
Oh, right. So when a baby suckles, it triggers the release of prolactin, which tells the mammary glands to produce milk. Exactly.
It's like this built-in supply and demand system.
Yeah, it is. And it's not just about milk production. Our textbook mentions that prolactin levels also fluctuate in women throughout their menstrual cycle.
Okay.
And this contributes to breast tenderness before their period.
Interesting. And what about prolactin in men?
Well, the role in men is less well defined.
Okay.
But it likely plays a role in reproductive health, potentially influencing sperm production and prostate function.
So it sounds like prolactin is a little bit of a multitasker.
It is.
Okay, so we've covered the 6 major hormones produced by the anterior pituitary.
We did it.
GH, TSH, ACTH, FSH, LH, and prolactin.
Wow.
That's a lot to take in.
It's a lot. It's a complex system for sure.
It is.
But remember, each of these hormones plays, such a vital role in keeping your body functioning optimally. And what's really remarkable is that it all comes back to those intricate feedback loops that we keep talking about. Right, those communication pathways that ensure that the hormone levels stay within a healthy range.
Exactly.
But what happens when those pathways get disrupted?
Yeah.
Our textbook mentions a number of conditions that can arise from hormonal imbalances.
Yeah, and we've talked about a few already, like, diabetes insipidus, SIADH, and the growth disorders associated with GH imbalances.
Right.
But there are many other conditions that can happen when this delicate balance of the endocrine system is thrown off.
For example?
Well, so think about TSH.
Okay.
If the thyroid gland isn't producing enough thyroid hormone, you can get something called hypothyroidism.
Right.
And this can lead to fatigue, weight gain, depression, a whole bunch of other symptoms.
And then on the flip side, an overactive thyroid or hyperthyroidism can cause anxiety, rapid heartbeat, weight loss, insomnia.
Yeah, all sorts of things. So getting those thyroid hormone levels just right is really crucial.
Absolutely. And then there are the conditions related to ACTH and the adrenal glands.
Right.
Cushing's syndrome, for example, is caused by prolonged exposure to high levels of cortisol, either because of an overproduction of ACTH by the pituitary or the use of corticosteroid medications.
Exactly.
Our textbook mentions some pretty dramatic symptoms associated with Cushing's syndrome.
It is.
Weight gain, a rounded face, muscle weakness, thinning skin.
Yeah, and it can also lead to high blood pressure, diabetes,
Wow.
and an increased risk of infections.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have Addison's disease, which is caused by an underactive adrenal gland, leading to a deficiency of cortisol and other adrenal hormones. And this can result in fatigue, weight loss, low blood pressure, and even life-threatening adrenal crises.
It can. It can be very serious.
It seems like any disruption to this intricate hormonal cascade can have significant consequences for our health.
Yeah, it really does highlight the importance of understanding how these systems work and recognizing the signs of hormonal imbalances. Early detection and treatment can make a huge difference in managing these conditions.
So we've explored the individual roles of each hormone and the impact of imbalances, but I think our deep dive wouldn't be complete without considering the bigger picture, how the pituitary, under the direction of the hypothalamus, orchestrates this whole hormonal symphony.
Yeah, it's like a complex dance with the hypothalamus leading and the pituitary following, guiding every step.
It's a very elegant dance and one that's really crucial for our survival.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. The pituitary gland, under the direction of the hypothalamus, it's helping regulate, our sleep-wake cycles, our body temperature, appetite, fluid balance, stress response. The list goes on and on.
How these tiny structures exert so much control over our lives.
Right. It really highlights just how interconnected our bodies are, how one system influences another, and how everything works in harmony to keep us functioning. But what about when things go wrong? I mean, our source material mentions that tumors, infections, even certain medications can disrupt this delicate balance.
Absolutely. And the effects can be, pretty far-reaching.
Yeah.
So, for example, a tumor on the pituitary could lead to, an overproduction of growth hormone,
Okay.
causing acromegaly,
Right.
or it could suppress hormone production, leading to deficiencies and a whole bunch of other problems.
It makes you realize just how vulnerable these systems can be.
Yeah.
So what can we do? Is there anything we can do to protect this tiny but mighty gland? I mean, are there lifestyle choices we can make that support its function?
That's a great question. While we can't always prevent things like tumors or infections,
Right.
there are definitely things we can do to promote, overall endocrine health. Maintaining a healthy weight, managing stress levels, getting enough sleep, eating a balanced diet, all of these things can contribute to a well-functioning hormonal system.
So it's really about taking this holistic approach
Yeah.
to our health, recognizing that everything is connected.
Exactly.
And if you think something might be off,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to talk to your doctor.
Absolutely. Early detection and treatment are really key to managing many of these endocrine disorders.
Okay, that's great advice. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From the anatomy of the pituitary to the functions of its hormones to the importance of these feedback loops. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought.
Okay, I like it.
Given the pituitary's central role in so many vital functions, scientists are increasingly looking for ways to harness its power to develop new therapies. Imagine the possibilities.
The possibilities are really exciting. Researchers are looking at ways to use, synthetic hormones to treat a variety of conditions from growth disorders to infertility to even cancer.
It's fascinating to think that this tiny pea-sized gland could hold the key to unlocking new treatments and really improving human health.
Yeah, it really does underscore the importance of continued research in this field.
Absolutely. Well, on that note of scientific wonder, I think it's time for us to surface from this deep dive.
Back to the surface.
But before we go, we want to thank you, dear listener, for joining us on this journey into the fascinating world of the pituitary gland.
Thanks for listening.
We hope you've gained a new appreciation for this incredible structure and the vital role it plays in your life.
Yeah.
Keep those brains buzzing, and until next time, stay curious.